let's get busy one time. I did a little bit of the painting off camera. Well, the background part of it. This is a painting of a young lady by the name of Nia Wilson, and I won't say we all know. For those who don't know, she was a young lady that was senselessly killed by a flaming racist. I won't even mention his name because that animal isn't worth me mentioning his name. However, Nia Wilson, she was senselessly murdered. Um, I think she was stabbed or had her throat cut. Her sister was also injured. Her sister survived. Unfortunately, Nia Wilson did not. And it is. It sucks to say this, but it's another case of senseless racism, senseless violence going on in this country. I mean, there's always been racism. There's always been racism in this country. That's nothing new. The only difference between the racism that you read about in the books, history books, and the racism and the violence that accompanies the racism in this day and age is hello is what it's much more visible. It's it's live and direct. It's in your face, live and direct, blatant, just racist acts, racist rhetoric, to the point where people are being killed. People of all ages, little children, elderly, middle age, young adults, male, female, it don't matter. We live in a time where the racism isn't new. The violence isn't new. It's just now it's being recorded live. And it's just sad to see another case of a young person, a person, period, of color, have their life taken for no other reason than the color of their skin. That's basically what it boils down to. It's basically someone killing someone simply based off the color of their skin. And a psychological just disease of quote unquote superiority and inferiority, where people feel like another person is inferior to them because of their skin color, and they feel entitled to act violently towards that person. It's truly sickening. It's horrible. I mean, the only difference between this violent act and the acts of violence, is that there's no there's no video footage of it. But it's horrible. It's horrible. So I was commissioned. I was actually going to do a drawing of this, like one of my live one of my live time lapse videos of Neil Wilson, but I was commissioned earlier today to do a painting. I said, you know what? Sure, I'll do a painting. I got no problem with that. I was going to do one anyway, so I mean, why not do it? So here we are. 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 Unfortunately, I'm doing a painting from a tragic event. You know, I would love to do paintings. I would love to perform art under more positive circumstances rather than negative circumstances. But sometimes, well, all times, your art reflects the times. Your art reflects the times that you live in, and the times that we live in suggest that it's not always going to be positive. It's not always going to be nice art. It's not always going to be smiles and rainbows and stuff. It's not always going to be the case. Sometimes the art calls for a form of protest, and I've always considered myself, you know, I like to, use my art as a form of protest. You know, sometimes I use my art for a means to demonstrate my displeasure with certain events going on. You know, I have no problem talking about political issues, none of that. And if those who remember from my videos in the past I've done on Instagram Live, I did about painting. I normally perform the background first. This is the background, and after I perform the background, I do the middle ground, I do the foreground, and the highlights. It depends on if it's like a portrait or something like that. If it's like a portrait, that's how I do it. Since I've already done the background, the hair, it's just very unfortunate that this is another case of senseless violence. And what really bothers people of color, whether it be African American, Hispanic, what really bothers us is, along with the actual violence, the nonsense and the violence, is that the punishment or lack thereof doesn't fit the crime. We've seen plenty of cases in these past few years of people of color being senselessly killed by people of authority. Even though this case wasn't it, we've seen plenty of cases where people of authority have used senseless violence and have murdered people of color. And hello, and when it came to delivering justice to those members who committed the crimes, there was no quote unquote justice being served, where the families were left heartbroken and no justice was given to the families. Too many times we've seen that. And is and then you ask like what more do you need? Well, we got the body cams, the live Instagram video footage. Excuse me. Pardon me. The live Instagram video footage of people of color being killed by members of police or just senseless violence by the hands of citizens, citizens. You see children being separated from their parents. We all know about the whole Mexico thing, and you just wonder what kind of country is this? Like what kind of country is this? What kind of country is it that we live in where at least what we were taught that no one is above the law. That's what we were told. That's what we were taught in school and all that stuff. That no one is above the law. You do the crime, you do the time. Right? That's what we were told. I was told that in school. All that. However, on too many occasions we have seen instances where that's just not the case. Too many instances where it's just been a flat out lie. Where if you do the crime, you don't always do the time, depending on your pigment. As Paul Mooney says, the complexion for the protection, right? Where if, let's just say, hypothetically, had that been a black man who walked up to two white young ladies and killed one of the young ladies and seriously injured the other young lady, right? One of the young ladies died. They died. The other young lady does it. What and they caught the murderer, right? What do you think would have happened to that black man had he done the same thing to two white girls, the two white young ladies that the white man did to Neil Wilson and her sister? What do you think would have happened to that black man if he did the same crime that happened to her? And unfortunately, we live in a time where we kind of already know what would happen. We kind of already know what would happen if the roles were flipped. We already know. I mean, black people still feel the stigma of what happened to Emmett Till, where the woman that got Emmett Till killed admitted that she lied. For those who don't know the story of Emmett Till was a 14-year-old boy in Mississippi who they said whistled at a white woman, right? And because the young lady said that Emmett Till whistled at her, and because of her claims, whether they were proven, they weren't proven in the court of law. Well, they weren't proven. But Emmett Till was kidnapped, assaulted, hung, drowned, murdered, beaten so bad that his head was like 4 times the size of his normal head. To the point where he was literally unrecognizable. You know, people say, somebody's beaten till they can't recognize you. Emmett Till was literally unrecognizable. His mother, at the funeral, demanded that they keep his casket open so America can see, and eventually the entire world can see, what kind of actions happen in this country that is so-called land of the free, home of the brave. Right? At her deathbed, at the woman's deathbed, who said that Emmett Till did whistled at her, she said that he didn't do it. So essentially, Emmett Till was killed for nothing. He was assaulted for no reason. Now, that's what happens to us if certain members of the country think we did something wrong. So we say, okay, we have plenty of cases of recent. We ain't got to go back to until we can go recent memory. Plenty of cases where a white individual can commit a crime, and not only will the criminal go unharmed, but there won't be so much as a scratch on the entire body. Case in point, Dylann Roof. Y'all remember Dylann Roof, right? Dylann Roof went to Charleston, South Carolina, into a church and murdered 9 people while they were praying. 6 women, 3 men. When they arrested Dylann Roof, not only did they arrest him, not only did they arrest Dylann Roof without a scratch on his body, not only did they do that, they fed him. They fed Dylann Roof Burger King. Right? Now, that sounds crazy. It almost sounds unbelievable. But unfortunately, it's not false. So, what kind of justice will Nia Wilson get? And unfortunately, because of the track record of this country when it comes to people of color, a lot of us people of color, African Americans and others, don't feel so confident about the justice system when it comes to delivering justice. Just don't feel confident with it. I mean, why should we feel confident with it? We have too many cases of justice not being served across the board. See, if justice doesn't care, who you are. That's how it's supposed to be. True justice does not care who you are. If you do wrong and commit a crime, you should receive the same punishment as any other person who commits the same crime, regardless of their color. That's just how it go. But that's how it should go. That's how the law is written. Justice under the law. It does not say it doesn't say if you're black. It doesn't say if you're white. It doesn't say if you're Hispanic, Asian. It says justice under the law. With liberty and justice for all. Now, I'm not naive. I understand the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. I understand who wrote it. I understand why they wrote it. I know all this. However, since the laws of the land were not written in racial specific language, That means anyone under the law of the land should expect justice to be served to them equally and fairly, regardless of their social status, regardless of their political affiliation, regardless of their religion. That's stated in the Constitution. Hello. But when the laws of the land that are stated to be in the service of all members, all citizens of the land are not, when they are not, I should say, when they are not when true justice isn't given to all its citizens, let's just keep it that simple, then there is a gross neglect in the justice system. And it also states in the Constitution, I'm paraphrasing, when the government does not abide by the laws that are voted on by the citizens, then the citizens, the people of this government, have the right to abolish the current government and demand that a new government be established. That is in the Constitution. So, do we live in a country? If we're going to be honest, do we live in a country where liberty and justice is delivered to all? Let's just pause on that. Do we live in a country where the liberty and justice is delivered to all? Is this a true republic? Because it's a republic. One, the word democracy um, is not written in the Pledge of Allegiance, nor in the Constitution. This is a republic, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, a republic simply means that the people hold the final say, and since one person shouldn't have all that power, aka Kanye West, no one man should have all that power. The power is distributed into three branches. And all three branches, the one common denominator with all three branches are voted on in some form or fashion by the people of that country, of the nation. The three branches are judicial, legislative, and executive. Okay? Congress, the presidency, and the Supreme Court, all within Washington, D.C. The legislative branch is the Congress and the Senate. The executive branch is the President of the United States. And the judicial is the Supreme Court. Then you have the local municipalities, the governor, the mayor, so forth and so on. All of these seats are voted on by the people, aka you and I. Now, like I said, I am not naive. I know that when this country was founded, the documentation that was established did not have people who look like me in mind. I know this. I am well aware of that. I know that And nowhere in there did they say, you know what, people that look like me are going to have power. I know that. Which is why freedom wasn't given to people like me until 1865. Emancipation Proclamation by Abraham Lincoln. Even though Abraham Lincoln really didn't, free the slaves for moral reasons. Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves simply because he did not want the South to succeed. That was Civil War based off of. The South wanted to succeed the Union. The North said, "No, you ain't gonna do that." The South said, "Don't believe me, just watch." The North said, "If you succeed from the Union, I am going to take your biggest commodity from you." The biggest commodity in the South were the free labor, aka slaves, aka descendants of kidnapped Africans. The South said, "Whatever, you ain't gonna do nothing about it." They had a fight. The South lost, and on that moment, Abraham Lincoln said, "Since you didn't believe me, here we go. All your slaves are gonna be free." Since you wanted to play around, that was basically it. Abraham Lincoln. I know, like veering off in this, but all ties into this because she is another link in the chain of the system that has shown to not fully take care of their citizens as they should. Because you had the 14th and 13th Amendment where we were seen as citizens, right? Meaning we had all the rights and liberties of this country like any other citizen. But you still have some people who don't like that. Hello. You still have people in this country who still adhere to the old slave mentality of keep the colors in check by fear. And all this is a long line of fear mongering. The fear monger means simply just to sell fear. The word a monger is someone who sells something like a fishmonger, a fear monger. Yeah. Using terroristic acts on its citizens to keep them in line, in check with the status quo. What is the status quo? Whether it's in legal jargon or not, status quo is basically you Negroes, you colored people, stay in your place. And for someone to take it upon themselves to kill someone like her, this young lady, with no remorse, shows me that there are people who still cling on to that slave master mentality. Keep the slaves in check. That's basically it. Keep them in check. Whatever you got to do, keep them in check. Put fear in them. She was another sign of keeping fear in the hearts and minds of people of color. I mean, he did it in a public place, just out of the blue, just harmed her and her sister. She ended up losing her life. And we will see how the man who killed her is depicted. That's also what happens when a white person kills a group of African Americans or people of color. They're depicted as mentally unstable, right? All the school shootings, mentally unstable. However, when a black person does something similar or nowhere near as worse, they are depicted as big bad dude or scary person or I felt threatened, even if they pose no threat. You see, if you give the narrative of a threat to a group of people, you feel no remorse when you decide to kill them. The moment you give danger a face, when you give the adjectives of danger, when this administration said, rapists and drug dealers, the moment you do that, you give the citizens license to harm anyone that they see they think fits that description. Because once I label you a threat to society, whether or not it's true, once I label you a threat to society, I feel no guilt in harming you. Once I label a black man a thug, I feel no guilt in locking you up. Once I label, once I'm the president of the United States. If the president of the United States label Mexicans drug dealers and rapists, and if they come into our country, they're gonna bring drug dealers and rapists. Once you label someone something like that, something so heinous that is unfounded, once you label someone a threat to your society, whether it's true or not, once the propaganda starts, whether it's true or not, you have given the citizens the license to do to those people whatever they see fit. Oh, thank you. Was one time your friend. Bonjour, bonsoir, comment ça va? Yeah, how can you not talk about it? How can you? This is because here's the thing. And see, like just you're from France, so you hearing this from France, it's affecting you. So imagine how it affects the people who actually living in the place where it's happening. A mother and a father lost their daughter. A sister lost her sister. It's that's something you can't. The two things you can't get back when you lose it is time. The two things you can't get back when you lose it is life and time. When you lose those two things, you can't get it back. But like I said before, when you see somebody as a threat, as less than human, see the first thing you need to do is when you want to kill off some people, you must first spread the propaganda that they are a threat. That's what you must do. Yes, and that's the thing. The you've been from France. You may know this. You may not know this. France also had a hand in this because the descendants of Africans, France had a hand in it. Portugal and Spain, the Portuguese, Dutch, and the Spanish were the first ones to deal with the transatlantic slave trade. You got, people of African descent in Haiti speaking French on the same island where people of African descent speaking Spanish. You got people in Louisiana was a large French population. I mean, for crying out loud, you being from France, we have a New Orleans here. There's an Orleans, France there. So that tells you this is gone way back. But like I said, once you have deemed a people criminal or less than human, yeah. Once you deem a people criminal or less than human, you feel no harm, you feel no pressure whatsoever in getting rid of them. You do it to people, you do it to animals, you do it to wildlife. If you don't see yourself in life, you don't care about life. You don't care about it. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Boomerang effect. Absolutely right. And it's all simply because the people who do these acts, the people who commit these acts don't see the people that they harm as equal. We don't. You don't see the people that you killed as equal. The man who killed Nia Wilson did not see Nia Wilson as equal. He did not see her as a human being. That's why he felt no problem whatsoever in killing her. And then they're gonna say, well, he was mentally ill. Okay, he was mentally ill. But how many mentally ill people of color get killed anyway? There are plenty of people who are mentally ill of color who get killed anyway. So, where's the treatment for that? And then the question is, how are you going to paint the narrative? How would this person, like I said, I won't call his name because he's not worthy of me speaking his name, but how would this murderer be depicted in the news? Because that also is what gives people justification to do what they do. If the authorities give the okay, or if the people who deliver the information give the people of the nation the okay to do this, he gonna say, he had mental health issues. We should give him a lighter sentence because he had mental health issues. He really didn't know what he was doing. Right. And we shouldn't apologize. Everybody say, no, we can no longer apologize white murderers. You're absolutely right. And we shouldn't. Because the law does not say, well, kind of, so, I mean, the law doesn't say because you're white and you kill somebody, you should receive a lesser sentence. No, it does not say that. It says liberty and justice for all. That's what it says. I didn't write it. I didn't write the Pledge of Allegiance. You didn't write the Pledge of Allegiance. Some old white dudes wrote the Pledge of Allegiance. So if they said liberty and justice for all, then what needs to happen is They need to be held to the same standards that anybody else who committed the same act will be held to. Simple as that. If it's truly liberty and justice for all, if it's truly that, if it is what you say it is, and I don't like that. I mean, I don't like that when you have people of color coming out trying to justify what the what the white murderer did. I hate that. Like come on, like really? You know what it is. You know, like we know what it is, and you still gonna and you, then they're gonna parade that one black person out there to justify the act. True, because if you think about like, I mean, if you going to ban the word, like you got to find a better way to better way to describe it because what happens is all people are gonna try to do is redefine the words to fit the narrative that justifies the action. That's basically what it is. Whatever you want to do to a person, if the language is coded in a way where you feel comfortable in doing that act, you're gonna go with whatever definition works. That's basically it. If the language suits you or the language suits the act that you're doing, you can always fall back on what it says in the law. So That was a good conversation right there. It's going to show you that I'm more just an artist. Thank you. Hey, many years of practice. Lots and lots of years of practice. Yeah, well, yeah. My brain. Oh, need some more paint. Need some more of this paint. Hold on. Run on low on this one. But these are thoughts I've had in my head. I've always had thoughts like this. This is nothing new. Yeah, because it's simply it's fair is fair. Not only you just want to say fair is fair, but it's like most people in the world want to go through their life, go to their day to day life, love their kids, love their families, afford themselves the best in life that that they can afford. Most play this. Most organisms on the planet, plants, animals, fungus, human beings, whatever. Most organisms on the planet do not want to be aggressive with any other organism unless it's to eat. Simple as that. That's why you I've seen footage of birds. I've seen in real life a sparrow chase a hawk. Meaning that in most cases, you don't really want to bother nobody else. You just want to go throughout your life, day to day, live your best life, and you don't want to bother nobody. Well, the reason why most, well, in my opinion, the reason why most news stations would skip over a story like this is because, once again, if you don't see, but as long as the harm isn't coming to your front door, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to care about it. You know, people say, as long as it ain't me, or glad it's not me. That's the mentality that people have adopted over the years. As long as it's not me. So, as long as it's not anyone, you know, cancer is cancer is a horrible thing. But most people are going to see. Most people also say, you know what? Glad it's not me, because cancer doesn't really hit you hard until someone you love is affected by it or yourself is affected by it. Violence, it sucks, but 9 times out of 10, violence won't be a problem until it affects you. The same thing when it comes to racism. If you, as a white person, don't know what it's like to have the police pull you over, ask you to get out the car, arrest you, or be violent to you simply because of the color of your skin, then you will never truly sympathize. I mean, you can have empathy for it. You can empathize with it. You can say, that's horrible, that sucks. But 9 times out of 10, Donald Trump's children will never know what it feels like to be driving while white. Put it like that. If the person who killed Nia Wilson has a child or children, those children or that child will never know what it feels like to be abused or worse, killed simply because of the color of their skin. They'll never know. There were laws in America put in place for the purpose of making sure that the newly freed slaves went back into slavery. And most people, because most of the people in this country are white, most people in this country will never understand that there are laws made so you can't live in the same neighborhood as me. There are laws made where you can't own property, where you can't pass on wealth. There are laws made for that. Yes. There are some people in this country that will never comprehend that. That will never understand that. Why would somebody do that? Why would somebody free you just to put in laws to put you back in slavery? The 13th Amendment of the United States states verbatim, slavery is abolished, except if convicted of a felony or crime. Meaning, if you are a criminal, if you are convicted of a crime, and you are put in jail, by definition of the Constitution, the 13th Amendment, you are a slave. That came after slavery was abolished. 13th Amendment. You had Jim Crow in America, and you had apartheid in South Africa. So this isn't just a blacks here in America thing. This is a global thing. The Berlin Conference, the Compromise of 1877, in here, over here. Jim Crow, apartheid. It's the same thing. Laws were put in place to make sure that the enslaved people of that particular nation, the conquered colonized people, yeah, I mean, and that means you understand. That means you comprehend on a human level. See, on a human level, if you just think about on just on some simply a natural thing like human to human, it is barbaric. What is happening in America is simply barbaric. There's no other way to put it. It's barbaric. It is savage. Some of the people of this country have taken upon themselves to simply become legalized savages. They feel no problem with harming other citizens of this country simply because of the color of their skin. They feel as though they're justified by doing it. And it's nonsense. It's simply nonsense. And it's only because the members of some of the members of this country, in their mind, do not see the value in black life. They do not feel as though they have to see us as humans. Like I say, if you don't see yourself, yeah. Well, then it's not even good excuses. Because if you think about it, to be racist, it literally makes no sense to actually be racist. It makes no sense to be racist because you can't come up with a logical explanation as to why you don't like somebody based on the color of their skin. You can't. No one can come up with a logical explanation as to why you don't like somebody based on the color of their skin. So here's the thing. But in order for you to do something wrong, you have to first make it sound right to yourself. No one does anything wrong without first justifying it. Because if you justify the wrong you're doing, you don't feel any kind of way of doing it. You will justify it. But when you're doing something right, you don't have to explain yourself. It's only when you do something wrong you have to explain. You have to explain why you did it. Like this: if you want to give money or food to a homeless person, you don't have to explain why you did it. You just give somebody food and money to a homeless person, and you just say why you do it because I wanted to. You don't need to explain it. But if you were to slap someone and somebody asks you why you did it, chances are you can't come up with a good reason. You have to justify it first. You never have to justify doing a good thing. Yeah, yeah, true. And see, when you see someone that looks like me as less than human, one, you are grossly miseducated because if you actually were to, if a racist were to actually do the research, if you were to take a racist person and take them to the library or the Library of Congress or whatever or the internet and just say, if you think I am inferior, but oh shoot, my thing about to die. It's about to turn off. I'm about to finish this off camera, but I thank you. I appreciate it. I may finish that on camera too. Thank you for the conversation. Catch you later. Peace. 2, 1.